Now, we all know that one of the biggest problems with AI is how creative it can be.
Come join me.
It will flat out make stuff up and be so confident in its answer that you shouldn't doubt it until you do. And for the longest time, one test that I would always do is to help it plan my retirement. You know, I'm 40 years old, and much like everyone else, I'd love to retire early. Now, I sold my IT business in 2020 and seemingly chose one of the best times ever to pretty much just throw everything into the stock market. So one thing I would always try is export all of my investments, throw them into AI, be that ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Claude, and ask it just to tell me how much my investments were worth. And with answers through to £5+ billion, it has reliably been, well, unreliable. Until now. Now, Claude is just one of the AI apps I use daily, where I was able to pull in all of those investments, even a mixture of screenshots and data files, where it then analyzed the current returns and proceeded to build out this full retirement plan, calculating how much I need in the bank to bridge the gap until I can access my actual pension, with month-to-month projections all the way through, even building this whole user interface with sliders that I could drag to change my retirement age and how much I want to draw out for it to dynamically adjust all of its recommendations. Now, previously, this was stuff that would require meticulous planning and calculations and spreadsheets, perhaps even paying a financial planner. But this is in reach of everybody who is clever enough to ask one simple question. And you don't even need to spend any money to get started with this. Now, AI has gotten so good that we are now at the stage where people are actually beginning to trust it. And each time I come across something new that blows my mind, I show my wife and my friends, and then they show their friends, and like dominoes, it spreads. So today, I want to show you what I'm actually doing daily with AI that is genuinely saving me both time and money, as well as a few fun ones out there as well, so that you can maybe pick up one or two of these to try for yourself. Look what you've done. And for like 90% of what I'm talking about here, the free version is enough to get you going. Google Gemini has a completely free tier. You can download it right on your phone. And yes, even if you're on an iPhone, I've actually mapped the action button on my iPhone to start a conversation with Gemini. So no matter what phone I use, Apple or Android, it works. Now, I also use Claude whenever I want to talk to other applications, which I'll also cover off when and like why that is useful. Starting off with one that I think has now spread to pretty much all of my friends, all of my family, is using Google Gemini's Nano Banana. Now, we were thinking about moving around my kid's bedroom, so I took my phone, snapped a photo, uploaded it to Gemini, and just asked it, show me what an epic kid's gaming bedroom could look like. Now, I showed this to my kid, what it generated, and he wouldn't stop talking about it until we actually just went ahead with it. And surprisingly, even though, yes, it did make some stuff up, we got pretty close to what it suggested. And it actually makes his room feel bigger since it actually made the best use of the available space. We did the same to my daughter's bedroom, and then she loves hers. My producer here has also been doing this to redecorate the house that he's recently moved into. And then more recently, I've done this to just a regular, plain old, boring, very messy cupboard in our house. It's got stuff like the main fuse electrics board. It's also where the internet comes in, so I've, stuffed it full of racks and switches and all sorts of stuff in there, which has now been reimagined into something we actually desperately need as a family, a ton of shoe stories, because Jesus, we have so many shoes. Now, this is one that I think my wife showed to all of her friends, and now they're all doing the same thing with their kids' bedrooms, but it is such a good thing to try. Now, another one for Gemini specifically, although you can do this with Claude and other apps too, is that Gemini can, if you allow it, have access to your Gmail accounts and your calendar. So if you ever need to find an email, you can simply ask Gemini to find it for you. Maybe you need to, remember one of a gazillion dates that your kid's school sends you. You can just simply ask Gemini to go and find that email and see if there's something coming up, maybe in the next couple of months or so. You can even ask Gemini to add those dates into your calendar as well. Again, such a great thing to use AI for. Now, I've done this numerous times now to find emails and given it as much detail as I can remember, even if there isn't much detail to remember. Anything from, I'm looking for an email from Samsung about Unpacked, which had an itinerary attached. Can you find it and tell me what I'm supposed to be doing on Wednesday? I also forgot when my dentist appointment was, so I just asked it to go look through my emails, find when my next appointment was, and also then asked it to add it to my calendar.
I am looking for an email from Ubiquiti with a
a returns label. Can you look through my email, find it for me?
The email from Ubiquiti containing your return label was sent on March 26, 2026 by Charles S. from Ubiquiti Support.
Can you show me those PDF attachments?
The email from Charles S. at Ubiquiti Support on March 26, 2026 includes the following PDF attachments for your return.
But then beyond email and calendar, Claude is my go-to whenever I want to combine data from multiple places. Cross-referencing data from Monday.com, which is our project management system, to Xero, our account system, whilst also still being able to check through our emails, bring in website analytics, and just so much more. Now, this YouTube business is a limited company here in the UK, which means at some point every year, I need to actually understand where the money actually goes. And with Claude connected to, all these various systems, I can then ask it to pull in things like my sponsorship income month by month and compare it year on year with previous years. I can also ask, based on the current data, what our annual turnover is and what sort of profit we've made, and therefore how much my estimated tax bill will be this year. Again, all of this without picking up the phone to my actual accountant, who I will, of course, speak to for actual real numbers after they've done all their magical stuff. But this is where it gets really clever. Claude can then analyze and even advise on my entire financial picture, and then make recommendations or possible scenarios that could potentially save me money or maybe spend money I was already planning to spend more wisely. Like, and as silly as this sounds, buying a new fully electric car, which here in the UK does come with some pretty significant tax savings, which is the literal difference of paying my money to the government to go and waste on whatever, big grand scheme they've kind of concocted in the pub together or something, or paying a down payment on a brand new car instead. And I know which one I'm gonna do every single time. So I had Claude look at the sums of keeping my existing electric car versus buying a new one, and it was able to think of things that I hadn't even thought of, like weighing up the cost of maintaining my existing car with an extended warranty, new tires, servicing, potential non-warranty repairs, depreciation, and just so much more, and then compared to a new one. And, combined with a bit of man maths, it is a very, very obvious decision. So follow me on Instagram if you want to see which one I ended up buying. Now, look, I want to be clear, Claude is, of course, not a financial advisor, neither am I. Please don't make major financial decisions based purely on what AI tells you. But honestly, the number of times I've asked Claude a financial question and then proposed its answer to my accountant, who then went, oh yeah, that could work, it's becoming just more and more often. And as a tool for understanding your own numbers and asking better questions, it is just remarkable. It's even saved me money. A few weeks back, I got a bill from the local council for £4,500 that I wasn't expecting. So I took a photo and asked Claude to check it against the government's own website to ask if it was correct. Now, I went through everything and found that there was supposed to be a cap on this particular taxable increase of £800 at most. So that one conversation saved me almost £4,000, £3,700 to be exact, and saved me a huge amount of time having to sift through the government's own website to try and make sense of it all. Now, outside of Claude and Gemini, there are a few other AI services that do offer more than just chatting with AI. Now, Recall sponsored a video on this channel last year, and since then we've just continued using it, and they've just launched Recall 2.0. And since we were gonna mention this in this video anyway, agreed to sponsor this one as well. Now, it is like having a personal AI knowledge base where, with something like Gemini or Claude, you're having to copy and paste links to then ask the AI to summarize something. Recall lets you do it via mobile app, web app, or even browser extension with little to no effort. And then once it is added, Recall automatically analyzes, applies relevant tags, and then lets you chat using the information on that page. But with Recall 2.0, you can have it automatically pull in sources from the web. And then that's all saved, so you can then reference it later. Now, one area that we do use Recall for daily is with part of my newsletter, which is called Experiments in Progress, where I highlight some of the latest news that I've come across each week, whether that's the latest tech news or product launches. But with Recall, I can hit one button in my browser to have that page saved into Recall, and then it automatically tags it, but I can also assign my own custom tag. So when I am ready to write my newsletter, I can just chat with Recall and ask it to summarize the news for me this week, and then send this to my team to then add into the newsletter. But also, if we ever want to make some headphone content in the future, I can see all the stuff that's been tagged as related to headphones. I can even see the connections to this item, finding all of the items related to the brands, the product category, or even features. In Notebook, I can then see the content summary, but I can even then write my own notes, which is where I then tend to add, my own thoughts on an article. And so Recall are offering 25% off when you use Pete25. You can also use the QR code on screen here or the link in the video description. And then coming right back to car shopping, I used AI to go look online and find me the email address for every Porsche dealership here in the UK. And then I asked it to write me an email that I can send to every one of these dealerships asking for the best price on the new car. But through all of them, only one of them came back with what I actually asked for, a price and a discounted price, and also with some freebies thrown in too. And guess what? That dealership got their easiest sale ever. And so using AI to find information online can be incredible, from finding email addresses to even looking for names or addresses or phone numbers. Voucher codes is another one. You might not have heard, but Honey, that very, very popular browser plugin, has been caught doing some pretty shady stuff. Now it's supposed to give you the best discount codes that it can, somehow find online. But amongst other things, they've been caught withholding those best discount codes, but only if those sites pay Honey to then hide them. But AI just skips all of that. And before you check out, just ask it to go and find any coupon codes it can find, and then you can just go and try them and see if anything works for your purchase. Instant money back. And for business, the possibilities are just increasingly becoming more and more endless. I do really think that the days of things like solicitors and accountants are coming to an end sometime soon. Like previously, I have spent tens of thousands on solicitors' fees for them to write what is most likely the same contract they've written 1,000 times over with the same clauses, and yet charge me like they've agonized over writing every single word in that document. Now, over the years, I've taken their advice and paid for contracts, only to find that when someone breached their contracts, well, you've got to prove it, and even then you might not win. Now, I wouldn't advise you to use AI to write a legally binding contract yet, but I don't think we're that far off. Now, what I do use Gemini for is to check over contracts, to look for any areas that I should be worried about and flagging things worth pushing back on. I've even been using it to suggest how to structure my business and my finances most efficiently. And again, all of this without spending time or money on a professional who will quite likely say maybe like 90% of the same things. And more I find that AI, be it Gemini or Claude or Recall or whatever it is great at that like 1% stuff. Stuff that not many people know about, but stuff that could be exactly what you need to know. Let's talk about health and fitness. Like, does anyone else have this or remember this? When you go to visit a doctor and they would like pull out a book off the bookshelf and start flipping through it as they try and like look up for, potential suggestions or treatments. Most of the time with me or my kids, AI has helped me diagnose something pretty thoroughly before we even make an appointment nowadays. And yeah, this is obviously definitely an area where you don't want AI to get something wrong. But from diagnosing conditions to your overall health and fitness, it is just incredible. I regularly use AI to like check in on my overall health and fitness, from uploading blood test results and showing it screenshots of regular scans and measurements that I get from the gym each week. My just AI system knows me better than anybody else could. And then the more you feed it, the better and the more accurate it can get at making those suggestions. I'm currently having various scans for a pretty weird liver condition thing that no one seems to be able to answer for me now. But all the scans I'm having are coming back as clear. And yet my blood test shows my liver results are like up and down all the time. Now, all of this is data that I will at some point, hopefully, be able to, that I can just throw into AI and it can answer for me. Now, no, I haven't like cured cancer or anything else like this with AI, but there are stories. Someone recently used AI to help make a cancer vaccine for his dog, which shrank several tumors. To someone who was told by doctors they just had, anxiety. To AI actually discovering they had Parkinson's disease, which is pretty serious. Or again, someone else was told they had anxiety when AI diagnosed it and had it confirmed as Lyme disease. And just with the state of the healthcare system, at least here in the UK, using AI to help you diagnose, especially when you have test results and scans and data. Like, this is what AI is incredibly good at, taking like a buttload of data and just making sense from it all. Again, not medical advice, but it is getting really good here. Next up, we have technical detail, which is also great with AI. We do our fair share of reviews on the channel, and especially for our monitor reviews, we need to be able to collect a ton of information and refer to it when writing the actual script. And this is actually another area that Recall has been used for here. For our Studio Display XDR video recently, I was able to add an item for each support document relating to the monitor on Apple's website with a custom like XDR tag, which meant I could then chat with only the XDR content, like checking my own findings against all the articles I had added. And then even better, I could add the results as a custom note with the same XDR tag, and then all of my responses will then consider the manufacturer's specs and our in-house tests. And then I can use like Recall plus Web to then validate my findings with other reports online as well. Also for students, there is a fun quiz feature where Recall can generate a set of questions based on the content and actually test your knowledge on the subject. You can even send this to others to test their knowledge. So if you want to prove you are paying attention to maybe this video, let's link down below to quiz about this video. A link will be in the description. There'll be no account required. And again, if Recall sounds good to you, then there is a 25% promo link in the description too. Right, now this next one is a bit niche, very niche, but stick with me. My kid is like really into Pokemon. I actually started a Pokemon YouTube channel with him a few months ago, just so that I get to spend that, little bit more time with him as, he gets older and realizes he doesn't want to hang out with like his dad anymore. But I am discovering that trying to buy Pokemon cards is like physically impossible. Even when new sets are released, people will queue for hours. And it's at the point now where basically any online store that gets them in stock sells out within a literal second. Scalpers have like figured out how to automate buying cards as soon as they find them, just so that they can make a bit of money by selling them at a higher price. So I basically had to do the same thing if I want to stand a chance. So I had Claude write me a script that then sits inside my browser and watches for when the main Pokemon Center store has stock. And then as soon as it sees it, it jumps in the queue for me. So I hopefully actually stand a chance at getting something for me and my kid to open soon. Now, Gemini Live is also one of my absolute favorite features when it comes to AI, and especially for tech support. In fact, in a fairly recent update, Gemini Live can now highlight things that you are looking at. If it's recommending something that you need to look at specifically, or maybe push a specific button, this sort of thing starts making Gemini really useful for troubleshooting almost anything. Like when my car charger threw up an error that I had zero idea about, I brought up Gemini, shared my camera, showed Gemini what was happening, and got a full explanation with step-by-step instructions for actually fixing it. Like real-time technical support for free at 9 PM when no support line would be open anyway. And not just this, using it on my grass just this past weekend. We've worked with Husqvarna for years now with their robotic lawnmowers, and I always feel really bad because my grass really not that great. It's always cut thanks to their mowers, but it's always like really patchy and really bumpy. So asking Gemini to help me
Fix these brown patches on my grass because we've had a really dry summer. I'm wondering if I can use the swimming pool water to water the grass, but I'm not sure if the chemicals and the chlorine would damage the grass.
You could, but you might want to wait a few days after you've added chemicals to the pool so the chlorine has a chance to dissipate.
Now I bought some seeds, some fertilizer, some topsoil, and it even then told me which order I needed to do everything in. Again, saving me paying for a gardener or paying a monthly fee to Green Thumb or whatever they're called. And then last summer it was pool chemicals.
How do you know if the chemicals are okay for the water to be used for grass?
To check if the chemicals are okay for the grass, you can use pool test strips.
Here is
concerned about
a test strip. I don't know if you can see the results here.
All right, so the pH is a little high at 7.8 and the chlorine's nearly 0.
The kind of thing that I would have probably spent an hour or two like Googling and then seeing conflicting advice and just wading through maybe decade-old posts and forum threads to find an answer, probably never get an answer. Not to say that Gemini was right, but it could have been wrong, but it also didn't kill my grass, so. Then there's even something as simple as a best man speech. And no, I didn't get AI to write the whole speech, but I did have a few different versions of certain jokes, things that were like funny to me, but I wasn't sure how they'd land with a room full of people that I'd never met, of course. So Gemini helped me work through which inside jokes were good to keep and which ones were like too niche to risk it and might like upset people instead, as well as making sure I timed it right so it just wasn't too long. Now, next up is some travel as well. So putting the work in when looking for holidays. Also very useful. Type in where you want to go, what you want to do, and you can at least get some rough estimates on costs and locations, timings, flights, all done in like 30 seconds to a minute without what me and my wife inevitably do, spend hours and hours browsing through holiday websites and reviews and eventually just getting tired and overwhelmed and then ultimately we didn't book anything. Now, some YouTube stuff. I know not many people watching this will be content creators, but I'm just going to throw one in here. Now, this is another one where I use Recall for where I can actually visualize the topics I'm covering in each of my videos. So I just add all my own videos, and not only will it summarize each of those videos, making it much easier to search my previous videos for stuff that I've already covered before, but it will also create connections for all the different products and brands and software, even features that I've mentioned in the video. And then I can use this graph view to have like a visual insight into how often I'm mentioning these connections, which is very impressive considering all I've had to do to achieve this is add the video from the browser plugin. Now, Recall just goes off and finds all the relevant data from the YouTube video and makes it all possible. Plus, it can bring in loads of different types of content too, from PDFs, even TikToks, and Connection just makes it possible to find links between content which otherwise might have been missed. And so it then helps me plan out other videos that I might not have otherwise thought about by myself. Then there is, of course, a ton more advanced stuff that AI can do for you, like coding websites, developing apps. Maybe let me know down in the comments if you want to know more about that kind of stuff. But a quick one here, and using specifically Claude, is that the desktop Claude app can actually do things now, like accessing your desktop computer and like interacting with it. Now, a popular one that I saw others suggesting, so I kind of gave it a try myself, was having it reorganize my downloads folder. And my God, did it work really, really well. Now, you can, of course, ask it to do basically anything you like, but it was able to take what was a very, very messy downloads folder full of what is essentially junk and organize it and put it into folders, and it was just incredible. And that again is just like the tip of what it's capable of doing. And then there's also all the other small stuff, the stuff that sounds really boring but just adds up over time. Quick conversion rate maths, 1,408 clicks, 32 conversions. What's my conversion rate? Also DIY tasks around the house, either with Gemini Live or by taking a photo. Quickly told me that my rechargeable batteries would also work as replacement for normal batteries in a garage door sensor thing that was also not working properly, which also worked out that the low voltage was why the sensor wasn't working properly. So with AI, it just gives you those answers, so you can just get straight back to it, providing they're right, of course. And the point isn't that AI does all of this perfectly. It doesn't. It still makes mistakes or outright just makes things up. But as time goes on, it is getting more and more accurate, faster. And like I said at the beginning, we're at the stage now where some tasks really are better when using AI. And you can start for free right now. You've got Gemini on your phone, Claude on your laptop, both of them free to get going. Now, if you want to see any more of these use cases, financial stuff, automating stuff, do let me know in the comments down below. Also, sign up for Experiments in Progress, where I share even more about how I'm using AI day to day. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers, bye-bye.